Oh, it's so nice to see so many of you. Hello. It's always nice to come home because before going back, I always get quite a bit of energy just by seeing the resilience of the Bahamian people's faces. And I'd like to welcome all of you here today as well. People have asked me if I have a family member who has Alzheimer's. Actually, indirectly, I don't. But I do have some cousins who do have Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. But I became interested in Alzheimer's after I had taken on a diabetes clinic in North Carolina, where I had run that clinic for about, 5 to 6 years or so. And I wanted to further find out more about Alzheimer's as it correlated with diabetes. So that's when I had decided to do the PhD degree in biomedical science, and I looked at the correlation of diabetes and Alzheimer's. So I will tell you a little bit about that as we go along. Like I said, I just enjoy being home and, being born and raised here. We often say that our older population, whenever they start to forget things or misplace things, we would say that they are doting. Did I say that correctly? Doting, isn't that what it is? They doting. Well, I can only say that here. Because if I was to say that in another audience in the United States, they would have no idea what I'm talking about. But what I would like to do is, I don't want to change the word as such, but I want to give you another meaning of it. Because as I now retire and I want to come home, I've been hearing a lot of statistics about the amount of people who may be having symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia. And we're using these terms, interchangeably. So if you take nothing away from this talk today, I want you to know the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia so that you wouldn't think everybody doting. So in this presentation that I'm going to give to you, besides the fact that I am going to share with you the new drugs that are recently came on the market for the treatment of Alzheimer's, of which I am happy to say that I was one of the physician scientists to help to bring those two to market. But I'm also going to explain to you the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm going to tell you about the signs and symptoms of both, because they are different. I'm also going to share with you not only the new medications, but ways in which you can prevent dementia or Alzheimer's, and let's take it from there. So you would ask, so what's the difference? What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? They are indeed quite different. They are not the same. Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing. Dementia is a condition that affects the brain. And there are some causes of these problems that will affect the memory, the behavior, and the thinking of an individual. Dementia, it can make it very difficult for a person to remember things, to communicate, and actually to carry out their daily activities. Dementia is not a specific disease, but it's a group of symptoms. It's a group of symptoms. So what are some of the causes and what are some of the signs and symptoms of dementia? Some of the causes of dementia could be aging, but everybody who's old don't have dementia. It also can be caused by infection of the brain, be that meningitis or meningitis, syphilis, a stroke, improper lifestyle like alcohol abuse, cigarette abuse, poor diet or the lack of exercise, depression, brain injury, diabetes, heart disease, or MS, as in multiple sclerosis, or if you were to have a family history of dementia. So some of the signs and symptoms of dementia includes memory, perception, reasoning, inability to hold attention or to pay attention, decrease in concentration, as well as thinking, judgment, and language. Now, I want you to understand that we say that dementia is it's a group of symptoms. So if there are a group of symptoms, then there must be some different types. There are 400 types of dementia. 400 types of dementia. I will not tell you all 400 today, but I will tell you the most important ones that I think will be beneficial for us. Dementia is an umbrella term which describes a range of cognitive impairment. If you were to remove the word dementia from that umbrella and put cancer, put the word cancer in that space. So if someone walks up to you and said, you know, John Doe has cancer, and you would say, what he got? What kind he got? Or where it is? You're asking them what type of cancer he has. So we know that there's some type of abnormality, as in some abnormal growth, be that on the skin, the liver, the abdomen, it's somewhere. There's some sign of abnormality somewhere. So put your dementia word back And dementia has types. All right? 400 plus. The most common type of dementia is Alzheimer's. That's where your word Alzheimer's come in. It's very specific, and it has its own clear features as to what make it so distinct from other type of dementias. The second most common type of dementia is vascular dementia. And that's due to strokes, any type of bleeding to the brain, any type of injury to the brain that's not allowing blood supply to get to the brain tissue in order for the brain to function the way that it needs to. The third most common is the Lewy body. Lewy body is more common in men than it is in women. And it's among the most difficult to diagnose, and it's difficult to treat because it has two dementias in one. One has Alzheimer's as well as Parkinson's dementia. So Parkinson's is a movement disorder dementia. In Lewy body, there's two, as to why sometimes it's so difficult for us to determine exactly because of the presentation. The presentation can show that he's having difficulty with movement, he has a tremor, etc. But at the same time, he's having this memory disorder. The fourth most common, I think most of you have heard, Bruce Willis was diagnosed with this. And it's the frontal temporal lobe dementia. Among other things, the fact that he had memory issues, thinking as well, but he couldn't do simple tasks, as in planning his day. It was very difficult for him. There's no treatment for this, basically. All right, this one is extremely difficult. But there are other types of dementias, just to mention a few. There's one called a mixed dementia. That's vascular dementia along with Alzheimer's. Alcoholic dementia. That's an overuse or caused by excessive intake of alcohol. And then that leads to a deficiency in vitamin B12, which is another type of dementia. Okay? Dramatic brain injury, if there's some type of injury to the brain, that one is kind of straightforward. You can have those same type symptoms. And Huntington disease is another type, and it's hereditary, and it's almost the opposite to Alzheimer's. They tend to remember the short term and not the long term memory, and Alzheimer's is the opposite. There's no treatment as such for that at the present time. So there are other types of dementias. Can be due to depression and stress. We don't have none of that in here. Side effects of medications. The vitamin B12. Sleeping. If you don't get a full 7 to 8 hours sleep, you can't think right. I don't know about you guys. I mean, if I don't, I have to get my sleep. If not, I just cannot think. Thyroid disorder. Any thyroid problem, be that hyper or hypothyroidism. There's some patients who don't even know that they may have a thyroid problem until they will present as if they come to the clinic and they say, feel as if I'm going crazy. And once those words are said to me, I kind of know exactly what's going on. I would then refer them to the psych ward for the fact that I know their thyroid is off, but I want to make sure there's nothing else that's going on. Once the thyroid is corrected, they're fine. Okay? That dementia-like symptoms kind of goes away. So we mentioned the alcohol and the drug abuse, other neurological diseases, as well as immune disorder. So, with that said, do you think there are some dementias that are reversible? Yes, they are. We just mentioned a few. Vitamin B12 deficiency is one. The thyroid is another. Malnutrition, dehydration. It seems very simple, but if you're dehydrated, you can have memory and thinking problems. And that's basic. It's a reason why, God put water on the earth. It's basically for us to stay hydrated. All right? It's also help in cleansing of the brain, particularly when you're sleeping. It detoxes the brain to get rid of what you don't need. Okay? Depression, delirium is another. So some of the dementias that are reversible, we mentioned a few of them. We mentioned the vitamin B12 deficiency, the thyroid problem, infections, like a UTI. Our loved ones or older individual will present with, behavior problem, like acutely, all of a sudden, like, Grammy, what happened? They're trying to tell you they're not feeling well. You take them to the clinic or the doctor to find out that, she has a UTI. Correct it, treat with antibiotics, give some fluids, and she's back to herself. And you would tell them, like, you know what, you were beating me with your walking stick. Like, me? Yes. It can do that type of changes in their behavior, but it's reversible. A brain tumor, some medications, carbon monoxide, diabetes, and elevated cholesterol. Now, the ones we cannot change, we cannot reverse, are like the ischemia, the bleeding from the blood vessel in the brain that causes almost permanent damages. Alzheimer's disease, we cannot reverse it. PICS, the Lewy body, the frontal temporal lobe, Huntington's, vascular, and Parkinson's. They are not reversible. So let's focus a little bit on Alzheimer's disease itself. We now know that Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. As we can see. So Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disease that slowly destroys the memory and the thinking of an individual. They said that it's common in persons over the age of 65. That's changing. I've seen it as early as the 40s, in their 40s. I recently read an article of the youngest person who has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He was only 19. So you don't have to be old or get old to get Alzheimer's. So we ask ourselves, why? So let's look at some of the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's. And they include the memory problems making decisions, sleeping difficulty, forgetfulness. When I say forgetfulness, in terms of if you walk into a room and you get there and say, what I get there, what I walk in here, what I walk in here for again? And you figure if you walk back out, you would remember. But there's two things. If you do walk back out and you remembered, then that's just aging. That's aging. But if you walk out and you just couldn't remember at all, somehow you forget it because just don't remember why you walked in there, then we got something else going on. Alzheimer's also has symptoms of unable to recognize, your friends, your family members. You cannot recall their names, but they're going to talk to you because they want to be friendly and warm, but they just cannot recognize that face, and it doesn't click anymore. Then sometimes this aggressiveness can come out. I don't know what's going on with this. Difficulty completing tasks. You start to make the bed, then you go fold up some clothes, then you go cook, whatever, that kind of thing. So there's changes in behavior, difficulty communicating with, in general. You kind of search for words. It's word searching. It's like, what you call it? Yeah, word searching, that kind of thing. The other one that is another sign of it is, they become socially withdrawn. They want to isolate themselves. And that can be for, a couple of reasons, including the fact that their hearing may start to become impaired. So if they cannot hear, then they cannot form memory in conjunction with seeing. So they're not going to become interested because they can't hear. Okay. Alzheimer's has stages. So all the symptoms, signs and symptoms that I just mentioned to you don't all appear at once. There are basically 7 stages, but I had broken them down into 3. So it's mild, which is an early stage, moderate, which is the middle stage, or severe, which is the late stage. So each one of those will come with, different types of symptoms at different times. So in early, you tend to, experience some, memory lapse, etc. Have trouble doing familiar tasks, washing the dishes or loading the dishwasher or, cooking, and then you forget to put in a particular ingredient, things, that familiar task. Moderate, it's more, frustrated, they become angry because the fact that they cannot do what they want to do or what they were used to doing one time before. They become confused as to time and place. All right. In the more severe stage, the loss of awareness of the surrounding. All right. They may be at home and say, I want to go to my house. All right. And difficulty communicating. Most times in the more severe stages, they would just totally shut down, have very few words to say as well. So let's look at some stats. It's very common, or it's twice as likely to occur in the African American population. I've learned a new term since I've been home. It's called the African Caribbean population. So that's us. All right. So we are twice as likely to develop, and that's because of our risk factors. The fact that we have hypertension, which can lead to strokes, obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. They are our risk factors. Just to share some facts globally about dementia, there's approximately 45 million folks worldwide has dementia. Every 4 seconds, somebody's diagnosed with some form of dementia. It's more common in women over the age of 65. By 2050, dementia is expected to affect at least 135 million people globally. Dementia, if it was a nation, it would be the 18th largest nation in the world. If it was a corporation or a company, it would have the world's largest corporate annual revenue of $6 billion, which is ahead of Walmart of $400 billion and Exxon Mobil. I kind of put this slide in there as a reminder to say something, that in the Afro-Caribbean population, that from what I've noticed in my studies, in research, from the time I've been in Alzheimer's research, which is going on about 10 years now, in correlation with everything else that I've done, it's rare that I see people that look like me in clinical research, particularly for Alzheimer's. And they're saying that we are 2 times more likely to suffer from Alzheimer's. But what I noticed was the amount of individuals of color that did participated in the clinical research study. They didn't have Alzheimer's. They were able to meet the criteria by doing their cognitive screening, yes, so they passed that part. Then the second part is to see if they're having the features of Alzheimer's, which is these different proteins. So we would do a PET scan or a PET scan, CAT scan, ultrasounds, etc. Once we get to that stage, they do not have those main components that puts person in that Alzheimer's group. But they have dementia. And the type of dementia that most people of color and the African Caribbean population is vascular dementia. That's our problem. Now they're beginning to put some focus on vascular dementia because of the fact that they need more diversity in research and wanting to have more people to take part in clinical research. I am in conversation with Eli Lilly and Biogen. They are the two pharmaceutical companies who basically have the two new drugs on the market for Alzheimer's, to see if they can do research study here in the Bahamas. And it's not just for us to participate to see what drugs will be for us, but to put more focus on the vascular dementia. To this day, I still do not know how many people in the Bahamas, I don't know the statistics of how many people in the Bahamas has Alzheimer's or dementia. They tell me it's 2,000. I think it's more than that, but that's just me. I don't know. So if we can get a rectory, where we're able to pinpoint exactly what's going on, that's one of my goals. And a little bit more about that as we go. But anywho, that's it. So a little difference between Alzheimer's and Lewy body. The Lewy body dementia is more common in males than it is in females. And the Alzheimer's is more common in females than it is in males. All right? So you're seeing a lot of the caregivers being females or their spouse, male, who might have been diagnosed with Lewy body or some type of dementia. Women are more common to have Alzheimer's or dementia because of two reasons. I have nothing against the males in the room, but women live longer. One. Secondly, we lose our protector once we get into menopause. Our estrogen no longer protects us, so that leaves us wide open. So that's why we tend to have. So let's look at the anatomy of the brain. All right, the front of the red part, that's like my nose and my eyes. The green to the back is the back of my head, and this is a side view. All right? This is just a demonstration of what the brain looks like in color. It doesn't look like that in real, okay? And it's all plastic. So each area of the brain serves a specific function. So the red area is for thinking, as well as we also have some memory there as well. That's the frontal lobe. We have the parietal lobe that tells the difference between left and right, some of the functions. Occipital lobe is for balance, as well as color and vision. Cerebellum is for orientation in space. As we walk, we have orientation. The brain stem is the controller. The heart rate, the breathing, the pressure is controlled in the brain stem. I left the temporal lobe last for a reason. The temporal lobe in blue, it's more you find the area for behavior, memory, understanding language, as well as hearing. There's a strong correlation between hearing loss and Alzheimer's or dementia. And it's only because of the location in that same lobe. If you cannot hear, you cannot remember. All right? So I urge all of you, get a hearing test just for a baseline. Okay? So the brain is composed of cells. Every organ is composed of cells. These cells then form tissue, tissues then form organs. And the brain is very specific. It has these unique looking cells that look as if they are like octopus because they have so many appendages that's coming off. We call them neurons or nerve cells. There's over 10 billion of these in the brain. These do not regrow. Once they're dead, they're gone. Okay? So what they do is they receive and they also send signals throughout the brain. I tell you they are very unique and just from the pictures, they just have these arms where they reach out to each other so that they can communicate. 10 billion. And we have so many because we are doing so many things at one time. We're driving, we're reading a map, we're smoking, we're on the cell phone, all at the same time. All right? We're cooking, we're washing, we're breathing. So these guys have to have a lot of appendages reaching out to all the other cells because you are just so busy. All right, on the left, you find a picture of a healthy brain of a woman that you notice this brain is very robust. It's healthy, it has a nice color, it's bouncy. The cells at the bottom, as you can see, communicating with their other friends. They're intact and they are just happy. To compare to the brain on the right side, which is a female brain that's the same age as the person on the left, but it's much smaller. It has shrunk. It not as robust and healthy like the other. And that's the brain of an individual with Alzheimer's. So what's causing this? On the left, this is a cross-section of the brain. It shows, again, the gray matter, white matter, it's all intact. You have a ventricle that's in the middle. That's where the spinal cerebral fluid comes through. It kind of bathes the brain, gets rid. It also brings in nutrients, blood supply, and so forth, so on to the area. At the bottom here, see if I can find there's an area that said the hippocampus. For those of you who may not can see it, it's a little loop area right at the bottom. That's where memory is stored. That's part of the temporal lobe. The hippocampus, that's where memory is stored. Alzheimer's begins in that spot. Note, on the right side, that same area is very thin. It's not as robust and healthy looking and plump. There are lots of space because the cells have shrunk. So what causes these neurons to die or to shrink? There are two proteins that I call obstructors or toxic proteins, because that's what they do. There's two of them. They are amyloid plaques and tau tangles. Somehow it's not all the way here on my screen. And these two proteins are the two proteins specifically that should show up in the MRI or in the spinal cerebral fluid if the person has Alzheimer's. They can show up together, or they can just show up one or the other. But either way, they are destructive. The amyloid plaques are formed on the outside of the cell. The tau tangles attack the cell from the inside. So you have a double whammy in this disease. At the time these two toxic proteins are floating around, they cause inflammation. So an individual who's experiencing Alzheimer's, they just feel as if the brain is on fire. These cells, these proteins, you wonder, where they come from. We know where we want them to go. We don't want you to be here at all. Where do they come from? To tell you the truth, those little toxic proteins been hanging around for a while. They've always been in our bodies. The question is, what increases them where they can become obstructors to our normal cells? We don't know. But presently, I'm participating in a research for Alzheimer's at our center, where we're looking at the plaques of our teeth. We think the plaques of our teeth has the same makeup as those tau tangles and amyloid plaques. In order to cure Alzheimer's disease, we have to stop those two toxic proteins from forming. The other way of getting rid of Alzheimer's is once they do show up, we need to get rid of them. All right? In the meantime, the two new drugs on the market now is they're able to get rid of the amyloid plaques, but not the tau tangles. There are two sets of scientists that are studying amyloid plaques, and the other group of scientists are doing the tau tangles. All right? It's going to take some time. It takes 15 to 20 years for this to develop, as in for it to show its ugly head. Okay? This is a picture that shows a person with severe Alzheimer's. And it's because it's showing where the healthy brain should be to compare to where it is now because he has Alzheimer's. So those tangles and plaques have destroyed the cell, thereby the brain shrinks. And once the brain shrinks, it cannot carry out the activity that they need to. So this shows the some of the neurons that have been destroyed, particularly the dark ones. They are basically dead. And the plaques are now attacking a normal cell. As you can see, he has all his appendages out and everything, but he's being attacked. So what are some of the risk factors for developing Alzheimer's? They said it starts at age 65, but we all don't get it. And that's because some of us just don't carry the gene that develops into Alzheimer's. Thanks to our parents. So when you see them, let them know. Thank you. A family history of the disease. If you have existing cognitive impairment, Down syndrome, that's more or less to occur or will happen because of the genetic makeup as to why that will occur. Unhealthy lifestyles, if you've had previous trauma to the brain, of course, and any time, an individual stay to himself, he's isolated, that also can be a risk factors as well. But there are other risk factors, including smoking, alcohol, obesity, hearing loss. It appeared up. Hearing loss, it's a risk factor for developing Alzheimer's. Depression, diabetes, hypertension. I want to go back to diabetes just to mention when I was doing my thesis for my PhD, that's when I discovered that type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. All right? If diabetes is going to affect your eyes, your kidney, your heart, your small nerve supply that's going to your feet, that's going to lead to some type of amputation in the same body, why is the brain going to be left out? It's the same body. Diabetes don't stop here and then work down. It's everywhere. Prevention. Control the diabetes, depression, hypertension, obesity, high blood pressure. You definitely need to sleep. Sleep is important. Very important. All right, social engagement, vitamin B12 deficiency, vitamin B12 deficient, you want to correct it. Others include, taking time out, de-stress. All right, exercise, adopt a healthy diet. So once you have Alzheimer's, then what? What do we do? So we give medications, in conjunction with that, we add or ask you to do mind-stimulating activities like board games, puzzles, word searching, anything to trigger the brain. Music therapy. I know Bahamians like music, so continue, whatever it is, just continue. And with that music comes movement. Any movement is good movement. So there's two medications, well, there's several medications that's on the market. Aricept and Namenda are the most common. But what they do, they decrease the symptoms. They do not get rid of the underlying diseases or the underlying disease of Alzheimer's, which are the tau tangles and the amyloid plaques. They only decrease the symptoms. All right? And as the plaques or tangles increases, the medications become less effective. So they're basically just temporary. So the two new drugs on the market now, Leqembi, I was able to help in bringing this one to the market along with the other one. This is an IV medication, so you will get it through your arm. It's given once a month, and it comes with a price tag. The other one, the Sinla, when you hear these new drugs are on the market for Alzheimer's or any other diseases, but particularly for Alzheimer's, I want you to note a couple of things as to why it's in yellow. It says it's possible to significantly reduce amyloid plaques associated with early, that's the stage, early, and it only attacks the amyloid. Okay? That makes a difference. Most times, particularly when a new drug, for instance, for Alzheimer's, comes out on the market, the news would say, oh, there's a new drug on the market for Alzheimer's. So everybody would come running in, they said, oh, they have. It's very specific because that's how we did the research. We only did the research on the early stage of Alzheimer's. We didn't do moderate and we didn't do severe. All right, so it's very specific. Now, I didn't tell you the price, right? I was waiting for the last to tell you the price. It's between 67 and 88 grand a year. So in the United States, Medicaid, Medicare, we're hoping the drug company can bring this down. So manage your hypertension, your diabetes, heart disease, hyperlipidemia, obesity, stress, sleep, etc. A little bit on nutrition. There is a diet called the MIND diet, M-I-N-D. And it's a combination of the Mediterranean and the DASH diet. All right, so it's composed of a lot of nuts, vegetables, legumes, green leafy vegetables, berries. And it's a reason why the fruits and vegetables are so colorful. When you walk into the food store, the first area you walk into are because they're reaching out to you for you to take them home. That's why they're so brightly colored. They're trying to outbeat each other so that you can take them home. So buy them because it's good. Okay? So it's a combination of the Mediterranean, the DASH diet. The DASH diet is a dietary approaches to stop hypertension. Do you see any chicken on the list? And you guys in the Bahamas, fish. I mean, you can get all the fish you want, guys. All right. I just wanted to add, when I showed this to another group, a young lady said, well, I noticed that there's a glass of red wine. I said, yeah, that's part of the mind diet, like 4 to 5 ounces. But she said to me, but you said 1 glass, right? So ways in which to better the mind or your memory, learn something new every day. Make sure you get your sleep, eat well, challenge yourself. All right, train the brain to do something. For me, in the mornings, I pick a number, probably 3 or 7, and then I just start counting back from 100, just to get my mind going until I'm done. You want to walk, exercise with a friend, your most powerful medication is just not in the bottle. It's on the tip of your fork. The choices we make every day, what we eat, how we move, how we take care of our brain are the key to preventing and managing dementia and Alzheimer's. You want to control your health because the power to protect your brain is on your plate. Thank you.
So let's take a trip down memory lane. It's May 2017. I just submitted my resignation letter to a company where I had been for 10 years and had just started a new and promising role the year before. So why, in God's name, would I up and leave my good bank job and new position? Well, about 2 years prior to this, Mommy was diagnosed with moderate early onset Alzheimer's dementia. And although we lived in separate households, her care still fell a great deal on my shoulders. This disrupted my work because Mommy would often slip past the housekeeper, sneak out of the house, hop on the bus, no money, no, and come uptown to visit her one good daughter on her job and keep tabs on her one good husband on his job. Or worse, she would go wandering. So this meant I had to leave work early in search of her or hang out with her for a while and then take her back home. And although I had the most understanding boss, it wasn't enough. I learned firsthand at that time that Alzheimer's can be a full-time job requiring round-the-clock care, sometimes even in the early stages. I was the only child. And not only was my father in his senior years like my mom, but he was completely and utterly spoiled by her as well and didn't know how to take care of himself, much less take care of his wife. So I made the difficult decision to resign from my job in order to take care of my mom. And in no time flat, I went from the daily hustle and bustle of the busiest branch of the busiest bank to learning to take care of a person living with Alzheimer's, in addition to my 2 young children, over what seemed like the longest summer of our lives. To top it all off, we had just found out 1 month into this experiment that we were expecting for a 3rd time. So now a role that already seemed heavy suddenly became heavier. Still, I carried on, and somehow we got through that initial phase. And after a few months, we were able to get Mummy enrolled in a geriatric daycare, and the boys went back to school. So for a while, it seemed like we had some semblance of normalcy. But as it is with Alzheimer's, Mummy continued her steady decline. She started moving slower. It became challenging for her to walk on her own. Her depth perception was gone, so she was often afraid just putting one foot in front of the other. She was now no longer able to attend daycare because she developed incontinence, which they were not prepared to handle. And it wasn't because she couldn't hold it, but she didn't remember how to undo her clothing, or sometimes even figure out how to explain that she needed to use the bathroom. So the loss of daycare meant for her the loss of social interaction. Because, of course, by this point, the number of friends who would visit and sit and talk or take her on drives had dwindled almost completely. So, yes, there was no longer a risk of her wandering. But now, for the most part, Mummy was relegated to the confines of her home. So let's fast forward now to 2020. And by this point, I had been working with my father in insurance for almost 2 years. And one day in the car on the way back to the office from seeing a client, Daddy says to me, "Boy, Alexis, some days I really don't feel as sharp as I used to be. And I just be forgetting things I really shouldn't. I wondering right now if this just old age or something else." And in that moment, I knew exactly what he was asking me. Am I going down the same road as Dawn, his wife? I tried to ease his concerns by saying, well, it's completely reasonable to expect that there might be some changes to your memory with aging, but I think we can go and get it checked out, just for your peace of mind. By the following year, it was no longer a question for me whether these symptoms were indicating what they were. My father was diagnosed with mild to moderate Alzheimer's dementia, as well as a rare type of cancer called multiple myeloma. The years that followed Daddy's diagnosis were challenging, to say the least. And after practically killing ourselves trying to manage 2 households separately, for quite some time, my husband and I made the decision to move my parents into our home in June of 2023. And we thought we were so prepared in the weeks leading up to this. We had a solid plan. Move them in along with their housekeeper, who would stay on for 2 weeks while I shadow her and she would train the new caregiver. Work from home with 4 kids, 2 of them under 5. What could go wrong? Everything went wrong. I was not prepared for the invasion of my space, the lack of sleep, and the increased anxiety and dread. And this was just 2 days in at this point. I was in the thick of an exhausting routine that felt unrelenting. My days began before dawn, but not with the usual pre-coffee quiet, but with a whirlwind of activity. Making breakfast for my kids, helping to get my husband out of the door, administering different meds to Mummy and Daddy, and managing Mummy's tube feedings, which is the point that we were at this time. And that was just the start. So, as a mother of 4, a wife, and a family caregiver, I was juggling a multitude of responsibilities, each demanding its own piece of me. My mornings were a symphony of chaos and love, each note reminding me of the unending demands of caregiving. The days when I went into the office, I'd pull into work late, barely catching my breath, only to dive right back into the fray the moment I got back home. I was burning the candle at both ends. And in the middle, trying to stay afloat amidst the relentless tide of duties. So right here, I'm going to talk about some of the challenges of caregiving. So as it relates to the healthcare system, the challenges that we face were, quite honestly, in our community, there is a lack of competent physicians for the treatment of persons living with Alzheimer's. And professionals ignoring or either being dismissive of the Alzheimer's patient. There are not enough professionals to help or train family caregivers. In terms of government resources, there's not adequate community services for caregivers or persons living with Alzheimer's, as in respite care or daycare facilities and support groups, and access to information for persons living with Alzheimer's or caregivers is minimal. The cost of care to the caregivers, so health-wise, mental and physical, you feel all the feels. There's anger, there's resentment, there's extreme sadness, depression, there's grief twice, and we'll talk about that as well. Anxiety, a sense of dread, guilt, thankfulness, and gratitude. You can't find the time or even the desire to take care of yourself. So your sleep, your fitness, and your nutrition, they fall by the wayside. Your general upkeep just takes a huge hit. Work, if you are able to do so still, you find it hard to maintain a balance between work and your care responsibilities. Your relationships and your social life suffer. You put everything and everyone else to the back burner, and that includes your husband and your kids and your family and friends. In terms of relationships with family, sometimes infighting around how care should be managed and who should manage it, who's not pulling their weight financially or otherwise. That happens. And then finances. Alzheimer's is a terminal disease, and most of us don't plan ahead for retirement, let alone long-term care and end-of-life care. So during this period, my daily mantras became my anchors. Number one, this too shall pass. I clung to this thought like a lifeline. It was both comforting and haunting, knowing that this season of my life would eventually end, but struggling with the reality of its weight in the present. And number two, don't get weary in well-doing. This mantra was my rallying cry. Every new challenge, from helping my father move around to managing my mom's personal care, required a deep reservoir of courage. And I would say that one with my full chest, hoping that it would be enough to carry me through each day. My time as a full-time caregiver was short-lived. By the end of September, they were both gone. Last year was the most grueling, humbling, heartbreaking, and sobering experiences of my life. The grief was layered and complex. I had experienced anticipatory grief, and that basically means, when I talked about, experiencing grief twice, Mummy was basically incapacitated with this disease for the past 10 years. So watching her decline, watching her go through each stage, you lose that person as you knew them. And then you finally lose them physically at the end. So I had experienced this anticipatory grief for a while as their health declined, but still nothing prepared me for the depth of loss that I would feel when they were actually gone. There are 5 things that I wish someone told me about grief. Number 1, grieving is a deeply personal experience, which we know looks and feels different for everyone, but you can sometimes still be very surprised by the way or the when it presents. At the oddest of times, you could be in conversation, you could bust out crying, you could be gardening, washing dishes, and a thought comes and you could be flooded with tears again. Number 2, no one really cares. Well, at least not more about your needs than theirs. Let's put it that way. You know, the world doesn't just stop just so you could grieve. You have to create the space for yourself. And when you're always the strong one, people rarely make space for your emotions, much less grief. Because you wear it so well. Child, please, if I looked like how I felt half of the time, y'all would be in a tizzy thinking that I was 2 steps away from being a patient myself. Number 3, motherhood trumps grief. You could be on your last legs, standing, holding on, barely breathing, and these kids will still come up to you and ask you for a snack. I could hardly sneak to the bathroom to cry without someone beating down the door, which admittedly sometimes provided a much needed distraction. Number 4, people don't talk about how grief affects the whole body. The fatigue. When you have been living, in survival mode for so long, you kind of get used to how tightly wound you are, mentally and physically. And sometimes, as the weeks and the months move by, it starts to feel like a crash, like from a sugar rush, or like you're on the low end of a manic episode, just really very low, just fatigued, and not even, like sleep deprived, just your entire body is just tired. Number 5, there is no grieving period. It's a lifelong process. And the sooner you come to that realization and stop trying to do it on your timeline, the sooner you can actually start the process. The days that followed their passing honestly felt like a blur. Just going through the motions and trying to keep it all together, get things done. Since then, I've been able to reflect on our family's journey. I cherish the moments to be shared, even amidst the challenges. I seek solace in my husband and my children, recognizing that we were all navigating the grief together. Now, a year later, I'm still processing this journey. The experience has taught me resilience, empathy, and the importance of reaching out for support. I find healing in sharing stories about my parents and their lives. While the pain of loss remains, I focus on the lessons that they have imparted. The value of family, the importance of cherishing moments, legacy, the strength we possess in facing life's challenges. Caregiving has rocked me completely and utterly to my core. It has changed me in ways that only it could have. And are the things I would have done differently? Most definitely, in hindsight, most definitely. But I am also so proud of myself for listening to my intuition, taking the leap and doing what was in the best interests of me and my family in that moment through all of these trials and tribulations.
Melanie Bunn, who is a Alzheimer's specialist training from North Carolina, states that people living with dementia are doing the best they can, but the caregiver needs to do the best they can to take care of themselves so they can take the best care of their patients. I must be like, we're gonna look at 3 objectives: define a caregiver, discuss the challenges that the caregiver may face, emotional and physical problems, burnt out, and explain the importance of self-care for caregivers. Who is a caregiver? Do you have any caregivers in here? Stand, come, let's applaud them. A caregiver is someone who provides care for the physical and emotional needs of a person. You agree? It could be someone who's being paid, someone who's not being paid, right? Someone who's taking care of a relative, a friend, a spouse, but they all considered a caregiver. Let's look at some. Go back up. No. Next. Okay, some of the emotional signs. We have depression. Depression, isolation, and worry. What are some of the signs somebody may display who's experiencing depression? They're sad. Go ahead, Coach Jane. They're doing? Pardon me? They sleep a lot, but it could be the opposite, that they don't sleep at all, okay? They isolate themselves from persons, and they worry a lot. Okay. Some physical signs. Fatigue. Always feeling tired. Illness. Being sick a lot for no apparent reasons and burnt out. Let me give you an example. My mother, I'm trying to be a physician, trying to diagnose her, and I realized that she was not experiencing any signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. She was just doubting. Old age forgetfulness. Okay, so I have really become a caregiver in the last couple of months, and it's really been a strain on me. But my mother, I realized from what Dr. Hanna said, that it's just her forgetting because she's getting older. My mommy will be 89 in December, and I thank God for her life. But I tested her one day. I went there, and I said to her, "Mom, do you know me?" And she said, "Yes, this is Betty, but I can't really see your face clearly." And I realized that it has a lot to do with her sight, okay? And sometimes I take my husband with me and I said, "Do you know what this is?" And when she sees him, she kind of a little fresh, you know, right? And when she sees him, she'll be cutting up, but she'll take a long time to say that's Betty. But when she say, "Oh yeah, that's my boy, that's Philip," right? And I realized that her memory, again, is associated with aging because with her being isolated so long, because she doesn't want to go anywhere because she's having some issues with her knees. So she really doesn't want to go anywhere. But she says to me, what day of the week it is, and I realize it has to do with aging. And a lot of us, how many of you have been on vacation like over a month, and you don't only still remember that it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And so that is what is happening. That is what is happening with my mom, because she doesn't want to go anywhere. But her memories are to the point where she really needs someone to actually take care of her. And she's lost sight in one eye. So she really needs someone to go to the stove and fix something for her. But it doesn't have anything to do with her memory that she would forget to turn off the stove. It's just that she cannot see to prepare a meal. Burnt out. A state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that can happen when you dedicate time and energy to manage the health and safety of someone else. And this is something that we have to be aware of. Caregivers who experience burnt out may feel tired, stressed, withdrawn, anxious, frustrated, and depressed. It's a feeling of, how can I go on? No energy to do anything. And again, let me use myself as an example. Even though I said my mother now, I'm not a physician, but I know I've worked with Alzheimer's and dementia patients for over 30-something years between the mental health section in St. Helens and the geriatric section. So I kind of tested my mother. And the frustration I get from dealing with my mother, okay? And sometimes I get angry to the point that I have to go in my car and take some time and actually just sit, because if it reaches to the point where you want to take your anger out on the actual patient, you have to actually walk away from it. And we're angry a lot because I retired from nursing 47 years. After 47 years in nursing, I retired 4 years ago. And I didn't realize that in a matter of 4 years, I would actually be a caregiver. Because of the advances in medicine and surgery, older persons are living longer. And so the caregivers now, when my mother turned 1 year old, I turned another year old too, right? So now I am an elderly person actually taking care of my mother. But some days I am not feeling well. My husband says, "You're cranking up, eh?" Right? So he said, I just want to buy you an hydraulic pump to help you with your needs, right? So I have my own health issues. I'm hypertensive. I have to take my high blood pressure medication. And plus, I'm a newlywed. I have to take care of my husband. Both of us are on our second marriage. So when I go to my mom, I say, Mom, I have to leave. And she says to me, well, why you have to go? I say, well, I have to go home and I have to fix something for my husband. But Mom, but Betty, you don't need to leave. And out of all the children, my mom wants to see who? Wants to see me every day. I'll be there for hours. And then she say, when are you coming back? Right? I said, Mom, I've been here from 9. The other day I went from 9, and when I left it was after 3. And she's still saying to me, Betty, when are you coming back? I said, Mom, I'm going to see if I could find another family member to come and be with you. Okay? So some of the things that you need to do. Take time out. How many caregivers take time out? What do you do when you take time out? What do? You worry. When I take time for myself when I'm away from my mom, I worry. Because why do you think I worry? What's happening? Because I believe I'm the only one who could do it. Okay? Don't move it. So you need to do some things for yourself. What sort of things do you think you should be doing for yourself? Even if you are physically in the house with that person, what are some of the things that you could do to actually get away? Read a book, go into another room, right? Watch TV, watch a movie, go on your tablet, play a game, and there's some of the things that I do. I love dancing. I love dancing. I told my husband, I said, I would have never married you if you did not like to dance and laugh. And he's actually a saxophone player, okay? And so I think I fell in love with him playing the saxophone first before I fell in love with him, okay? So do some of those things, right? Sometimes I go home and I play some Sparrow, Jean and Dinah. You know that song, right? Yeah, okay? Or Bahamian, KB, I'm a boatman, I'm a seaman, right? And I dance, right? Just do some things, or wherever his band play, they like to play at Spotlight Lounge, wherever his band play, I follow him, and I'm the highlight of the event. I love dancing. And I love performing. I write plays, I write skits, I do all sorts of things like that. And so when I write my plays, I make myself a part of it. When I write my skits, I make myself a part of it. Make sure you have regular health check-up. Why is that important? If you are ill, you cannot take care of the patient. If my knees continue to give me problems and I have to now end up having surgery, who's going to take care of my mom? So make sure you check for what? Hypertension. Make sure if you have that, that's fine. Your diabetes, the blood sugar level is fine. Whatever issues you have, make sure you have regular checkup, because if you are unhealthy, you cannot take care of the client. Pamper yourself. Buy yourself a present. How many shoppers in here? How many online shoppers in here? I tell someone I have at least 3-4 friends. Shein.com USA, Amazon, Pretty Little Thing, Fashion Nova, right? And I fill up my basket, but I don't put all through because I have my granddaughter. She's somewhere in the audience. She said, Gamma, you got enough of those things now. Okay? Build a support network. Find others to help you, family, friends, church members. I must say, I have such great support from friends. My friend Gigi in the back there, I know she must be tired of me talking about. I went to Mommy this morning, Gigi, and I spent so much time in the car crying. And then I go between 2 churches. I attend St. Cecilia, but I only attend that on Sunday. I live in the east, so I go to St. Anselm's Mass during the week from Monday through Friday. And Father Clarke, because he visits my mother, she no longer attends church. And he visited her every other Sunday. So we kind of like identify with her. And I say, Father, I am so tired. I need to talk to you. And then we have a little group afterwards. It's supposed to be a little prayer group afterwards, right? Some of them sitting over there and some over here. But guess what they be doing? Talking people business. They say they praying the rosary. Guess what they be talking about Rosemary? Okay? Yeah. But everyone will come to me. Everyone after Mass. Betty, how is Mom? But Father doesn't call me Betty. He calls me Betty White. You know why, right? Betty White, how's Mom during the day? And then I'll just, he'll stand. And I know sometimes Father say, when is the woman going to stop talking? I ready to go? Okay, so find some family and friends. I have some awesome friends. I could call them and say to them, you know, I really need to talk. I was crying so much one day, and you know men, right? I crying in front of my husband. Instead, he come and say, baby, what happened? He's sitting there looking at me. I say, Lord, have mercy, Heavenly Father, but he's good. You only have to call him and say, Mom says she wants a burger. Mom says she wants some chicken, and he'll go, because he know now, when she see him, she cutting up. Say, look at my good son-in-law. Join a support group. It's very important. You have the Bahamas Alzheimer's Association or whatever, just even if it's just an online group or just a group of friends that you need to support you. After I realized my mom memory was going downhill, but she plays on that too, you know. Okay. I realized it was going downhill. I form a WhatsApp family group. Okay, so I'll go in it. I mostly visit her in the morning. And then I try to go back in the afternoon. And I said to them, I said, you know, this is taking a toll on me. I cannot go morning and afternoon. I said, someone needs to go and take her something in the afternoon. And she loves Vitamal. And when you reach there, first thing she say, we got on this bag, you ain't got no Vitamal. It's the only thing she wants. Find something to do, like walking. Now, you know I need to do something, right? I try to do some exercise, and guess what type of exercise I plan to do? No, I sit in the chair. I say, this ain't working, so guess what I do? I go lay down in the bed. And I do that, right? Oh, and dancing. Oh, yeah. And play some jungle music and okay? Oh, I have a pet. How many you have a pet? I have a dog, a cat. Oh, call it Jane. I know you. How much you have? 5, 6? Yeah. And she walks them in a stroller on the Eastern Road. Okay. Gardening. How many persons love gardening? Okay, go in your garden. Okay. I only go in my garden. I play like I in the garden. If I see something happening on the road and I won't be nosy, I go play like. That time I supposed to have the rake, you know. I supposed to have the rake. I got the broom sweeping. Because you know, Bahamas be nosy body. Yeah, garden and then exercising. Okay. I also love cooking. You know, I could do an awesome crab soup. Plenty in here could attest to that, right? Okay. Especially in Anselm's people. Okay. When does a caregiver need counseling? When you find yourself drinking too much. Okay? You buy one Heineken, you buy a case of Heineken, and that's supposed to last you 3 months, and you drink it in 1 month. Right? You take one Heineken bottle and you crack the next one open. You know that's serious, right? Because you are frustrated, okay? Taking pills to get through the day. Thinking harmful thoughts. Oh, I cannot go on, you know. This is a bit too much for me. Crying or losing your temper too often. Begin to take out anger and frustration on the person you are caring for and experiencing symptoms of burnt out. You must seek counseling. Listen here. Frustration, anger, All of those are normal emotions. It's when you take it to the next level and begin to take them out on the person that you're actually caring for. There's something called self-awareness. When you identify that you're becoming frustrated, you feel that you're getting out of control, your anger is escalating. Again, self-awareness, you look within yourself and say, I am having these feelings. It is normal to have them, but they are getting out of control. When I go by my mom and I realize that I'm becoming frustrated with her, what do you think I do? I leave and I go in my car. She asked me for a telephone the other day with big numbers were big as that, right? My granddaughter with her nice kind self going on and ordered her from Amazon. When she saw the phone, oh, Betty, bring my phone. I been there from 9 o'clock until after 1 trying to explain to my mother. When the phone ring, put it here and say, hello. Still, I say, Mom, I'm leaving. I need to go home. Betty, I say, yes, Mommy. Come back and explain how you use this phone. And short people ain't got too much patience, People ain't got too much patience. So I said, Mom, you remember that old phone we had when we used to live in Blueberry Hill? It was stuck up on the wall. I said, all you used to do is pick up the phone and say hello. They said, yeah, I understand. I said, guess what? I go in the kitchen, I can dial you on my cell phone, right? I said, pick it up. She pick it up. Hello, who this is? I said, this me, Betty. Okay. And I said, Mommy, I gone. Betty? I said, what happened? Come show me how to use the phone again. I say, Lord. I say, Jesus, Lord, give me the strength. And that's why I move right into this. You must have that spiritual foundation. You don't have to be a Christian, but find something that you must hold on to make you want to go on. Okay, I ain't talking about them stuff who say they doing their rosary and they talking about rosemary them, okay? I'm talking about actually, my good friend, I know she killed me after. I'm talking about finding time. If you don't want to go to church, find the time to read your Bible. There's some good Bible verses to encourage you to want to go on and to care for that person, because guess what? Don't mind me joking, I love caring for my mother. And I spend half of the night worrying. My husband said, you need to go sleep, baby. You need to go sleep. I said, no, I am worried. He said, worry does not solve an issue. It's only going to cause your blood pressure. But you must find. That is why I try. Now, I can't lie in here because Father here. If I say I go to Mass, if I say I go to Mass every morning, Father can say, I ain't see you for a couple of mornings this week. But I try as much as possible to go every morning. And then that is my foundation, my special time with the Lord. Okay? I've had to make some changes because of my mother, because I realized now if I go too early in the morning, she's be telling me, I want nothing to eat. You can't come back that evening. So what I do, I switch. And I have a niece who will go certain times in the afternoon, certain days, and then I will go. And then on those days that she would go, I would go to early morning Mass. Okay? So find something, because it helps you. It helps you. One of the most saddest things dealing with someone, whether they have dementia or one of the types, which is the most common one, Alzheimer's, is watching them lose their identity. Okay? Watching them go from being the jovial, fun-loving person that they used to be to not recognizing you, some being aggressive. And one thing I want to say, some of the persons who were diagnosed with Alzheimer's are very, very difficult to deal with. So I don't want anyone to feel guilty here if you made the decision that you had to put your relative into a nursing home. Okay, that was your decision. Don't ever let anybody tell you, oh, you're driving a big kind car, you got this big fancy house, you're making all that money, but you put your mom or your dad into one of the old folks' home. You are not living in that person's house. Yes, I work a number of years in geriatric, and I know we have some persons who just didn't care and had to put their relatives there. But you have some persons who care and just could not cope. I had a friend, her mother died, and she was still feeling guilty that she had to put her mother in geriatric. And I spoke with her, I said, I had to encourage her to put her mother there. I said, this is too much for her, and it was too much for her elderly daddy to deal with. She had to work. She was the only girl. She had to work. She was working in my department. We worked every day from 8 to 4. It was in the education department. And I said to her, come, I need to talk with you. Do you think you've reached a stage where you need to consider alternative care for your mother? Because we had to do a lot of sessions, and I noticed she in the front of the class, and she's sleeping, she's nervous, she's anxious, sometimes she's crying. I said, come, we need to talk. And after she did that, after the time her mother passed away, she was still feeling guilty. So I don't want anybody to be here today. And if you had to do that, or if you're thinking about it, for anybody to put pressure on you or to make you feel guilty, nobody knows what is happening in your home. My husband have a habit in church. He'd say, boy, them two look like they get along so good, eh? I say, speak for me and you, don't speak for nobody else. To sum it up, remember, you will be a much better caregiver when you care for yourself. Caring is the ultimate love. It is a selfless, generous thing to do, and one that many people wouldn't think about taking on. It makes you feel so, so good. I was walking with my mom. She said, I was coming to take her for some shoes, right? Oh, Lord, that's a different story, because the heel too high, the mouth too turned up, this side too wide. So I sit down and I said, Mom, pick up your shoe. I was taking her across to the shoe shop, and this gentleman passed and said, you're doing such a good job with your mom. I said, what do you mean? He said, you remember when you were small, who was doing the leading? Your mom had to take you across the street. Now, I am taking her across the street. At the end of the day, who takes care of the caregiver? Who takes care of the caregiver? You. You have to be responsible for yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. You must take care of yourself. If you have a plant and you don't get the plant of sunlight or water, what happens to the plant? The plant dies. And if you have a fruit tree and you do not water it, the fruit tree does not produce. Thank you.
Well, they say once a man, twice a child. Thank God for Jesus. Thank God for Jesus. Those are the words that I hear constantly, every day, several times a day for the past 6 months, when I opted to become my mother's sole caregiver when our family dynamics changed. That's comforting to me. Because when I went there 6 months ago, wow, my mother was in a dark place. And she's a believer, she's a Christian. But you gotta nurture it, it gotta be nurtured. The Spirit of God. She wasn't getting that. She was sullen, she was withdrawn, she was antisocial. She just didn't want anything to do with anybody. Her hearing was going fast. And she couldn't smile. We were taking pictures with her and we were smiling. We were all smiling. And she looked very sad. She wouldn't even crack a smile. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see so many of you come out, because this topic is so very prevalent. Not only in the Bahamas, but in the world today. And I thank you for this opportunity. My journey with my mom, taking care of her, it started actually in 2009 when my mother's husband died. I think the depression set in. She became withdrawn. She was antisocial. She was all up in her lodge all the time, going and praying for them, but she did nothing like that. After it had been about a year, we realized Mommy wasn't doing anything, didn't want to see anybody. And then she became combative. Everything you say, she'd tell you she said something, and she didn't. And you can't get her to say she did. And one thing with my mother, she always told the truth. Mommy would stand behind whatever she said. She was that type of person. And so my daughter said, Mommy, you don't understand? Mommy don't remember. One time my mother actually accused me of almost stealing from her. Stand doing a loan, a $50,000 loan, that putting her house up as a security for her husband's brain surgery, and she tell him she never gave me those instructions. I was so worried for a minute, but I realized something was happening with the brain, because my mother was not a liar. Like I say, she will stand behind what she say at all costs. She's only 5 feet, almost 5 feet, 110 pounds. And powerful, very powerful. And to see somebody of that stature, seems small, but she was a big stature in the word, in the spirit. And to see her get to the point where, whatever you say, it's okay. Rather than standing up for what she really believed, that rocked me to the core, Mommy. And it was a couple of years before I realized it was dementia. And it got to the point where Mommy couldn't make a cup of coffee. She loved her coffee and crackers every morning. She's going to have a sweet coffee and a couple of crackers. When she couldn't do that, I say, okay, you know what? I live in the East. She lived on Michael Road. I'm not driving now. I opted to move into my house. And she was with me for about 3.5 years. Oh, what 3.5 years. Love my mother dearly. Can I tell you, I cried many nights. 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. She's supposed to be in my room sleeping because we're sharing a bed. And she owned a laundromat years ago. So she's mixing up my clean clothes and my dirty clothes. Oh, when I called my sister in New York, I said, Prophet, pray for me. I'm crying. I'm about to walk out of my own house and leave Mommy in this house. But I love her dearly, and I thank God for the opportunity. My oldest girl was there with me. One person shouldn't do it. One person should not undertake this task. There are times when my mommy would, because she know me, when I get angry, I speak slowly and softly. And so she would be egging me on. And when my daughter realized I was speaking slowly and softly, she said, Mommy, take a break. I got cramps. I have cramps. No. Let her answer me. What you mean you got? You see that way she walked? And if I blow a gasket, I can see a little smirk, a little smile, because she thinks she won. But there were two of us to share that. So please, guys, I implore you, if you have a loved one that's facing one of these things and you're not involved, get involved. Whoever may be seen to be carrying the burden now, they need some help. Anyway, prepare a meal. Just go give that caregiver an hour or two break. Just visit. It don't even have to be your mother. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Okay. So some people raise our children, raise us as children. And now they're in this state. Have we forgotten? Because they're in a childlike state again. They're toddlers now. Where's the village? Where is the village? Come on. How come one woman could raise 7 children? One little woman could raise 7 children. And now 6 children can't raise one little woman? Can't take care of one little woman? Something is wrong with that picture. And we're not unique in that. That's the way it's in the Bahamas. What happened to our grandchildren? Their grandchildren, not to our children, their grandchildren. Haven't we trained them to look out for Grammy? Back in the day, the little children used to look out for Grammy. Somebody dropped the ball. I didn't drop the ball. My children know. You don't do Christmas and Mother's Day and my birthday without my mother being involved. I don't care what state she's in. She's going to be involved first, and if y'all want to take me somewhere afterwards, that's the way it's going to be. And so what do you think would happen? When I get up in life, what do you think they're going to do? You teaching your children how to treat you as you get up. I strayed a bit, but that's all right. But I went on for 3.5 years to my mom, and then COVID came. And even then, I was doing too much. I was feeding her too often. Every 2 hours, I'd give her some food. And she'd eat a couple of spoonfuls and she'd leave it. And then next 2 hours, she's hungry. How you can be hungry just finished eating? I should have leave the food then and insist that she eat some more. So every 2 hours in the kitchen all day. Cooking for her, feeding her, doing this for her. It was crazy. But anyway, like I said, COVID came. And my family dynamic changed because my daughter, who lived with us, her job sent her to work to the COVID center. And she said, now, Mommy, I can't be coming home from the COVID center to Grammy. I ain't giving my Grammy COVID. Grammy need to go back in her own house, and we'll work like that. And I had a sibling that was living in a house anyway, so we had to make those arrangements. And that happened for about 3.5 years. But because of COVID, there was the separation and, no visitation. And my mom is a social butterfly. She's the hostess with the mostest. She liked for people to come around her so she could offer you a soda and a piece of bread or cast some bananas. And that wasn't happening because of COVID and other reasons. But in 2 months of being with my mother, she became brand new. Transformation. So don't tell me this thing can't be reversed. It could be reversed with some TLC. That's the first thing. And the love of God. Don't forget the love of God. Love covers a multitude of sins. And that's what happened. Within 2 months, my mother was smiling. I was taking videos. I got all sorts of videos. 3-minute videos with her dancing and smiling up and eating all her food and saying it's a good day and praising the Lord. And, one Sunday morning I got up and my mother was praying over me. This woman with dementia was so bad who wasn't saying anything, who couldn't hear anything. And I was telling someone on the phone how I woke up and Mommy's praying was praising the Lord. She said, no, I was praising it for you. I wasn't talking to her, but she heard me. She said, I was praising God for you. Love, the love of God. And remember what the Bible says, honor your father and your mother that the days upon the earth would be long. Remember that. And I got some siblings some people wait to hear me say that. I'm always saying that because that's the word of God. That's not my word. So let's do it. We're all different. I never thought I'd be my mommy sole caregiver, even for a minute, because I'm scornful. I'm not Florence Nightingale at all. Not at all. I'd pay. I had a good job. I was making good money. I would pay for this and I pay for that. But I've been retired 13 years now. I can't pay like that. And so, God anointed me. My children, when they were younger, they started, excuse me, can I be real with you all? My children, when they started eating real people food, my mommy had to take care of part of it when they potty. And so now, my mother is 92 years old. 92 years old, 20/20 vision, agile. I said to her she could bathe herself. The potty thing is a problem, but with proper instructions, be cool, I'll instruct that. Hey, and if I'm eating my food and the bathroom door open, the bathroom door makes noise. Praise the Lord. So every time the bathroom door open, I know she'd go, okay, so I could run. I'm coming now. I leave my food and I go to my mother and I supervise that. Okay, and she'll follow my instructions. I say, follow my instructions now. Left foot out, right foot out. She said, oh, you're so good. You're good. You're the best. She said, you really love me, eh? That's the Holy Spirit because I don't know what I'm doing. But it's been 6 months and we good. We good. And she's washing her hands and this and that. And she likes to wash the dishes. And wash your hand, come wash the dishes. She'll take 30 minutes to wash 2 plates, but it's good. And I'm praised. She like praise. Remember this is like a toddler. Give them back their dignity. Please don't rob them of their dignity. Let them feel useful and important. Other than they want to lay down and die. My mother loved when my friends pop in. Because she's the social hostess. She introduces herself. She never forgot her name. She forgets a lot of things. She don't know. Right now I'm a mother. In the last month I've been her mother. Mom, can I do this? Mom, you want me to do that? Okay, she told me yesterday, she said, you're the best mother in the world. I have the best mother in the world. My mother died when she was 6 years old. But I guess that's the nurturing part of me. Thank you, Holy Spirit. That lets her feel, she feels secure. Sometimes, she's my shadow. I want to get somebody saying, excuse me, go to the right. Excuse me, because she's right there with me. I say, Mommy, you know what? You're taking advantage of me. You're abusing me. You know you couldn't do this if you're taking advantage of me. She said, I love you. I love you. But it's such a joy to see her smiling and skipping. Once I dress her and she put on her cap. Now it's cap. Sometimes she wears 2 caps. And you can't tell it don't look good. She said, I said, Mommy, no, take off one. You need one. I want them both. I like them. They look good. St. Thomas wore a fluorescent orange cap from one of our bazaars and a hat. And she tip and she sashay and she looked good. If you say so, and I'll take the video and I'll send it to her children and all the loved ones and everybody, and there's joy. Somebody spoke about, stop talking about you waiting for them to die. Live in the moment, enjoy it. My mother is so happy. There's merriment. Not only for her, but for me. Because sometimes if you don't laugh, you'll cry. There are times I don't want you to think she got all the time now. She's been very combative sometimes. Now it's fine if it's thing, but if it's gonna get in trouble, I gotta put my foot down. And so sometimes I throw my hands up and I say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And she's getting such thing. And I start to speak to that spirit. I rebuke every rebellious spirit here in this place. Jesus is Lord. Trust me, she calms down. Jesus is Lord. And so, guys, salvation is the most important thing. If you're dealing with somebody, make sure their soul's right with the Lord. It's so good that we could say, and she loved the 23rd Psalms, and she loved Our Father, and we could do those things. And every meal we're praying, we blessing the food. That's a wonderful thing. So if my mother closes her eye today or tomorrow, I'm good. Because I know she's going to see her maker, her creator. That's what it's all about. Caregiver, even if you're being paid as a caregiver, love. Please treat them with love. God is love. And love covers a multitude of sins. Be good to them. Be kind. Be gentle. Teach the young ones to do that. I've taught I can call her my granddaughter. I'm a grand aunt, but she's calling me Grammy. She's about 9. 4 years ago, she was to my house and my mom was there, and my mom was repeating everything, the repetitive thing. Repeat. She asked the child the same thing 5 times in 5 minutes. My God, she looked at me. I say, answer her properly and come in the bathroom. I said, listen, Grammy is old and she have a disease called dementia. She don't remember everything what just happened. So if he asks you 100 times, you answer with decency and respect 100 times. You understand? Yes, Auntie Nana. I said, when you're here, your job is to look out for her. When I'm in the kitchen cooking, you look out for her. When she moves, call me. That was 4 years ago. That child came to the house a couple of weeks ago. And baby, she remembered all. She treated my mother with respect, with kindness. And she was right there, babysitting. She's now 11. Teach the young children. They're supposed to know, look out for Grammy, man. And every time it gets overwhelming for me, somebody would call or visit and say, God say, His grace is sufficient. Because I don't care how good you be, it gets very frustrating sometimes. And don't look at who didn't do what and how come, what do you mean? No, God anointed. He always anoints one for that person. It's about her soul. And it's an honor and a privilege. Now, I wouldn't have opted just do this, but circumstances changed, our family dynamics changed. I was thrust into it. And I said, I can't take out our surroundings. Because like my daughter say, Grammy's house is Grammy-proof. She could do whatever in there, she ain't gonna get in trouble. When I get out of my house, some weekends I used to take her to my house, because I want to go to my house. Oh, that'd be frustrating. My daughter said, Mommy, stay in Grammy house with her, because Grammy house is Grammy-proof. You much better there. And that's the truth. Don't take them in and out of their surroundings. Leave them in their familiar surroundings. It's just a wonderful experience and encourage one another. I got some friends, I get food twice a week. Mommy Church, Zion Baptist, they bring food for lunch. They bring 2. And one of my prayer partners is bring food to the house twice a day. Once a week, but she's bring 2. And so that's 4 meals. Well, I send it in about 6 meals because we don't eat that much. I appreciate it. And whether you have resources or not having to go to the store for a day or 2, it means everything. So those of you, if you cook, whatever, you invest your time, your talent, your treasure into the elderly, especially with dementia and Alzheimer's. Time, talent, or treasure. If you got some time, come spend 2 hours, man. Come spend 1 hour to give the caregiver a break. You like to bake, you like to cook, bring a meal. You got some money, bring some money too. And then there's some other things that they need. Y'all know some of the things that they need. Them depends be very expensive. Them wipes are very expensive. The Glucerna is very expensive. Every little amount. And I went over to caregiver. I wish I could get a caregiver, but when I call them, they say $100 a day. Somebody going to jail. So do the best you can, as long as you can. That's all I can do. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to see my mommy. And my mommy sleeps for 12 hours a night. That's another thing. When I first treated her, she's on medication, nighttime medication. But at one point, she slept 9 days consecutively for 12 hours every night without the pill, without the medication. We prayed, and she went to sleep. 9 hours. 12 hours for 9 days straight. That's amazing. And so, me as the caregiver, she's going to sleep 12 hours a night. That's my saving grace, actually. 12 hours a night, that's my saving grace, because I don't sleep for 12 hours. But I could do some things I need. I could get into the word, I could worship, I could catch them on social media. You understand? That's my saving grace, because if I had to be listening out for her, I'd have been silence. So, Lord, I thank you for that. And so if doctors suggest some of your loved ones go on medication to calm or whatever, embrace it. It'll give you a break. But I just thank God for who he is in my family, and I've gone to the point where I'm not worrying who does what or who don't do what. I used to be angry, like the woman of God said, I used to be angry, and I shouldn't have been. Saying, why this one can't come, why that one can't, why it's only me, why? No, you do your part. God anointed you. He gave you some special graces. Do what you do. Your mother is still breathing. That's my mother, and I know it. And she's still breathing. She's smiling. I can see joy in her. That's worth everything. And let's talk about eating. My mommy eats so well. Listen, when you give her food, she'll eat. She may eat 6 spoonsful. She can take up 6 pieces of rice at a time. 6 spoonsful, and she'll push the plate. I had enough. Okay? But I sit to the table. Every meal I give, I sit to the table with her. Whether I'm eating or not. Conversation. See, communication. And so we're talking. And even though she pushed the plate away, I continue talking. If I'm eating, I continue eating. Monkey see, monkey do. You're a beautiful monkey, mommy. And so I'll just lift the plate up and put it right back in front of her. And she said, that's mine. I say, yes. Oh, thank you very much. Seeing it for the first time. And we may do that about 6 times. But she eats all of her food. And I'm taking pictures of it. I take pictures of the plate that I've given her. And I always try to do a well-balanced meal. Her fruits and her vegetables on her plate every day. And so keep everything regular, and she's good. Skin complexion cleared up really good. She's looking good. Looking like a picture of good health. And that's worth everything. But the God we serve, he wants us to be very good. Remember the golden rule? Do unto others as you have them do unto you. Remember that. Please remember how you treat your people now going to determine what's going to happen to you. I truly believe that. And then there's a scripture was saying, that's Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bone. That scripture resonates in me. Because when I went there 6 months ago, she was on the second part of that, with drying up the bone. Can't smile and the rest of it. And can't hear. Mommy hearing is so good now. Before we had to shout at her. 6 months, and not me. Because I couldn't shout at her. They had to shout at her so she could understand. No, now she's communicating, she's conversating. This thing could be reversed, guys. It could be reversed. With the love of God, with some tender, loving care. And let her feel useful. Let them do things. I put on the children thing. Them the thing for the children, like with all the colors, whatever they like, counting and everything. Man, and she'd be very engaged in that. She's talking and they having big conversation. Yeah, and she's clapping and she's smiling. And she likes to count. She's counting everything in the house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cushions. I say, yes, 5. And she like praise. Table mass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I say, yes, very good. And she'll take a bow. Feel important, feel good. When she gets up and when my mother never comes out of her bedroom unless that bed is fully made up. And not a wrinkle is in that. She takes 45 minutes to an hour. Every day, no matter where she is. If she gets up on that bed, she's going to make that property. And then she'll come out front. So let them do what they could do as long as they could do it. In the bathroom, I run her bath. I soap it up, I give her a towel. Sometimes she may ask what to do. I say, do your face first. Then I show her what she do. And she's very agile. She don't sit no up. She stand up and she ain't want to shower. And so she should do that towel, agile, bend down and get up and she go again. Very agile. And she feel useful. Don't rob them of their dignity, please. And don't be talking up negatively about them while they're there. They can have their feelings. Yeah, they do some things. Sometimes we want to share some things, but do it away from them. Let them feel good. It's a joy. It's a privilege to come and talk to you guys today. And I hope somebody would have gotten something from what I'm saying today. It's all love, the love of God.
Prayer for those living and dying with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so we say the prayer for those living with Alzheimer's. Loving God, we lift up to you all those who are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. In their moments of confusion, fear, and disorientation, may they feel your peace and presence. Be their strength when they are weak, and their light in the darkness. For those in their final days, Lord, we ask that you grant them comfort and rest. May your love surround them, easing their pain and quieting their minds. Let them feel your gentle touch and the peace that comes from knowing they are never alone. Prayer for caregivers. Lord, we also pray for the caregivers, the family members, friends, and healthcare workers who attend to the needs of those with Alzheimer's and dementia. Grant them patience, compassion, and resilience as they navigate the daily challenges of providing care. May they find moments of rest and renewal. And may they know that their acts of love and service are a reflection of your care for all of us. Give them wisdom in difficult moments and the strength to continue even when the road feels long and weary. Surround them with support and love and remind them that they too are never alone in their journey. We trust in your mercy and compassion, knowing that you hold each person in your hands and that your love endures through all trials. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.